Well, we're celebrating Pride this month. Of course, we're gearing up for the New York City Pride Parade this weekend, 50 years since the Stonewall riots. So let's talk about progress on Wall Street and in corporate America for the LGBTQ community. Joining us now is Marty Chavez. He's Goldman Sachs Securities Division Global Co-Head. Marty, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
And we're talking to you about Pride because you were really one of the first openly gay executives on Wall Street. And I know you've been a champion of these issues. So how have things changed during your tenure? Wall Street has sort of had historically been notorious for not being very friendly to any kind of diversity, really.
Well, I joined Goldman Sachs in 1993, and I came from Silicon Valley, where I've been out for a long time. My co-founder in my startup would say, wear your Queer Nation t-shirt to the VC meetings. And so I thought, well, I've heard that Wall Street is homophobic. I don't actually know. And I'm just going to come out in my job interview. Turned out to be a good choice. But I did discover once I actually arrived at Goldman Sachs that I think I was the only out gay person in the company. Everybody's in degrees of coming out, but it's extremely tiny numbers. So if you just look at where we are today, it's a night and day difference. We could go on and on.
Well, when you talk about where we are today, you and I are both old enough to remember people like Anita Bryant and what happened down in Dade County, Florida in the 70s.
Yes.
But now you have corporate sponsorship of the gay pride parades. And then there's a protest parade this year, which is a gay pride parade, but no corporate sponsorship.
Right.
What's wrong with corporate sponsorship, or what's right with corporate sponsorship?
Well, on the one hand, for many of us in the gay rights movement, it's been a dream for corporates to embrace LGBT rights. And you could say, I think the term is rainbow washing. I've heard this.
Yeah, they call it selling out.
Okay,
Tatchell is his name, I think. He's one of the early gay rights activists out of London. He called it selling out.
So some would say that. I don't have that view. I would say if corporations are showing their diversity bona fides by embracing Gay Pride Month, I think that's a fantastic thing. At the same time, it is about the community, and we're supporting the community. So the community comes first, corporations after that.
Marty, I do have to ask you about a recent lawsuit against Goldman Sachs from a gay executive who said he was discriminated against. And I just have to ask you about it in the context of this whole conversation. What's your reaction?
So obviously I can't comment on litigation. I will say this. I read the lawsuit. I've worked at a great firm since 1993. Don't recognize the firm I work for in that lawsuit.
Do you think generally when it comes to Wall Street or corporate America, and I think this is true of sort of women rising up the corporate ladder as well in corporate America, that you do have sort of a cultural loosening, right? A cultural acceptance increasing of women getting on the same footing, LGBTQ folks getting on the same footing. Where do you think we are in actual progress as opposed to that sort of cultural awakening?
So a shorthand might be tolerance. That was the bare minimum, and we got there a long time ago. Then diversity, then inclusion, then belonging. At Goldman Sachs, and I know at other companies, there were a couple of important inflection points along the journey. First of all, allies. That was transformational for us when straight allies joined the LGBT network. Certainly as one of the few LGBT partners, just helping out with the mentoring was huge. And then the other thing that was a huge change is going from diversity as the right thing to do, but diversity being the smart thing to do. We get uncorrelated views. It would just be dumb to do anything to make people with diverse perspectives unwelcome. And so let's be smart and make them really welcome.
All right, but as you look at the trajectory since 1993 to now, personally, your being there had to open the door for people then to say, hey, this is who I am, and I can come out and join you.
And while in my own mind, I didn't see myself as a trailblazer, I suppose looking back 26 years, you could say that I was.
Did anyone ever come up to you at Goldman and say, thank you?
Oh, sure.
Tell us about that. What was it like?
Hundreds of times. It actually happens nearly every day where yesterday, an intern just stopped me in the elevator, that happens a lot, and said, I'm here because of you, thank you. And said it really fast because the elevator door was closing. And so, yeah, I'm aware of having that effect, but I'm not doing anything special, I'm just being me. And if that helps others, then that's a beautiful thing.
Marty, we're almost out of time. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you at least one question about the business of
Yes,
Goldman
let's do
Sachs. So there was a report today citing David Solomon, the CEO of Goldman Sachs, looking at the digital payments question, right? And as you mentioned, you have a tech background. What is the Goldman approach to digital payments, especially now that we have Facebook, for example, looking at getting into cryptocurrency?
So I am a computer scientist, so I always bring that perspective to things. I've talked a great deal about blockchain and cryptocurrencies and digital assets. I would say about blockchain, it's a distributed database. Distributed databases are interesting and hard. I would say about cryptocurrencies as a payment mechanism, too early to tell. Something we are terribly interested in, and David said this because we're working on it, is digital tokens. And you can imagine a future where stocks and other securities are represented natively in digital token form. And then if you have a stable coin against that, you can solve a lot of problems in finance. And so we're excited about it and working on it.
Going to lower the cost, though, but that might lower your margins, wouldn't it?
Well, lower costs, lower margins. I suppose that is the trend that the world is on, and we always find new businesses and new ways to serve the clients.
All right, Marty, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Been a
Marty
pleasure.
Chavez is the global co-head of the securities division at Goldman Sachs. Thank you.
Thank you.